Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Katelyn, and today we are starting the month-long special for OC-tober. So usually this time of year I always do Inktober, but honestly I was kind of feeling like doing something different this year for our October special. But I know there has been a lot of discourse also around Inktober. I don't really want to say much more. I kind of made a small little comment on Twitter, but I want to let it play out. I don't want to really pick a side or say anything more about it because we're just gonna let it do its thing. But outside of that, I really want to do some type of special for October, so this month we are doing OC-tober. If you want to follow along and do the prompts with me for this October, there's this list right here, but also it's on my Instagram and Twitter. You're welcome to follow along there. But basically, I really wanted to take the month to highlight some of my original characters. Like, I know you guys see, like, my monsters and other things like that, and those you could still consider, like, original characters, so to say, but I really wanted to do, like, something from my comics and, like, my own original, like, little baby OCs. So basically, to give you guys a breakdown, these first 2 weeks are gonna be new OCs from the series I'm developing called Fox Among Hounds. That one has been kind of a back burner project. I'm slowly still writing it, concepting it, and doing what I can every month. But I really want to give a little bit of a highlight and a shout out to my characters and introduce you guys to them. And then for the third week, I'm going to be doing one of my OG OCs that's been around since high school. I actually made a comic called Jade Dragon forever ago. And it was like my first comic experience, and I loved it. And the main character in that series is who I want to draw for week 3. And then finally for week 4, I'm wanting to include you guys. So if you guys would like to participate in my OC-tober this year and potentially have your OCs drawn, go to Instagram or Twitter with the hashtag KMMyOC and post your original characters, because basically the whole last chunk of the October challenge and kind of like the last week, I know it's more than 7 days, but the last week, I'm gonna be basically kind of doing an art trade with you guys. I'm gonna be drawing other OCs from other creators that are on the YouTube platform, but I'm also gonna be drawing some of your guys' original characters as well. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and jump into week 1 with my lovely main character from Fox Among Hounds, Aina. And I'll tell you more about her, but here's like a little old reference sheet for her. Technically, this one was made back in 2018, and I haven't really had a chance to draw her a lot this year or in 2019, actually, it seems. Like, I did a little bit here, like, sketches-wise, but I haven't really fully digitally drawn her in a really long time. So we're taking our 2018 concept, like, updating it a little bit to kind of more my current drawing style and everything, and yeah, basically we're gonna take this and make a really fun big character sheet for this first week. So let's go ahead and jump in with Aina. All right, here we go, guys. It is time to jump into OC-tober, and I've actually been really excited for this month because I honestly don't give my OCs enough time, and I feel like I haven't really been drawing them enough at all. I know, like, you guys are like, well, Katelyn, you draw all the time, but recently it's been very much like project-based drawing. For example, like making YouTube videos, doing very particular things on Twitch, like commissions or sub sketches or random things like that. And then, you know, having a full-time job also takes a lot of creative energy sometimes. So it's been basically put on the back burner. Anything with my comic or OCs or anything like that has been very much put way on the back burner, like back of the oven back burner. And it's because it's hard to do so many different things and different projects all at once. So, like, one fun fact is I've been developing Fox Among Hounds since probably about 2016, 2017. I can't put a for sure date, but I've been figuring it out for a really long time because I've been passionate about it. I've been drawing my characters since then, and I really love the idea of the story, but you know, sometimes life just doesn't give you the time to do those random fun things. So this one in particular, it's just been kind of a slow build because, like, I've done a comic before in the past. I did my Jade Dragon comic, which it's still, I look on it fondly because it was a really good learning experience, but I know that I could improve as a comic creator if I took more time to develop. I always tell people to just go for it and do their first comic because that's the only way you really learn. So for example, with Jade Dragon, I felt I didn't develop or write the story as much as I should have, which ended up leading to some major plot holes, things like that. So I kind of wanted to do the opposite with Fox Among Hounds and give this the time that it needed and just kind of let it incubate and become what I want it to be. I know, like, a series can't be perfect, and I'm not aiming for perfection. I'm just aiming for something that is perfect to me, basically. I just want to hit the story notes I want to have the character development I want to basically let my character shine to the best ability that I can. So that's one reason why it's been on the back burner, and then the other reason is just the amount of time I have. But with OC-tober, I was really excited because it's basically forcing me to do it in a good way. Because since I'm making a video for YouTube, I'm like, oh, hey, look, wow, I have a project that needs to be done equaling X amount of OC-tober videos. Well, then I can draw my OCs. It's weird like that, guys. When you have limited time and you're doing stuff like this, I'm 100% a project-based worker now. It's crazy. But now I'm getting time to work on this through OC-tober. So now that I'm done with my big long spiel, let's jump into more about Aina. So here's Aina. Let's start with some fun information about her that I've been sharing over on my Instagram and Twitter posts, which is nice for this video because Twitter has character limits. So anyone who just reads the Twitter or Instagram post won't get as much information about Aina as you guys are because you get a whole video with no character limit, just a time limit. So let's jump into some basics about her. So Aina is an 18-year-old exiled princess from the Fox Nation. She's a tough 5'3" or 160 centimeters, and then she's also 160 pounds or 72.6 kilos, and she's a warrior princess who is the last of the royal line of the Fox Nation. So, as a child, Aina was raised at the palace in the Fox capital with her father and mother, the king and queen, and she had an older brother, an older sister, and a baby sister. And Aina really enjoyed her swordplay lessons and some of her magic studies, but tended to skip out on more of like those royal lessons, so to say. She would much rather be exploring nearby forests and ponds than like sitting through boring lectures about economics or war games or crop planting cycles. She would much rather be out exploring, discovering new creatures, discovering new plants, and just being out in nature, basically. Sadly, though, Aina's happy life at the palace came to an abrupt end one summer when she was young. So leading up to that, the Foxes and the Hounds had been teetering on the brink of another war for years, and they had finally hit the tipping point. The Hounds invaded the capital that night and sought to take down all of the Fox leaders, including the entire royal family. So Bryant, one of the royal guards who was tasked with keeping Aina safe, woke her up, and they barely both escaped with their lives. So as they rode away, Aina watched as her life, her family, and the palace just burned to the ground. And then since then, Aina's been living in a border village between the Fox and the Hounds' lands. They've been trying to stay as undercover as possible to not put Aina in any type of danger, and basically the entire Fox Nation is now under Hound control. So even if she was to come and try to regain her position as a leader of the Fox Nation, she would probably be assassinated on the spot. So they're trying to stay under wraps and undercover and just act like the entire royal line was killed that night. But like I said, they're living on a border village, and in that village, it's a very poor village. They don't have a lot. They don't have a lot of different foods or supplies. So Bryant and Aina basically had to find a way to survive. So Bryant started up a blacksmithing business for the village. Aina spent a lot of her adolescence and teenage years working the bellows, casting swords, making nails, whatever the village needed, they made at this blacksmithing business. And on top of that, let's be real, doing that type of manual labor 100% beefed her up. Like, she is strong. Like, even if she's not like crazy chiseled or has like an amazing six-pack, so to say, she is a very, very strong woman for a lot of reasons, both emotionally and physically. But on the physical side, if you had to basically hit a hammer into an anvil every day, work over hot fires, and just do a ton of manual labor for most of your life growing up, you're gonna be a tough cookie for sure. Along with working the bellows and the blacksmithing business, Bryant also kept training her in the ways of the sword and also introduced her to using a shield. In the palace, back in the day, all royals were required to learn some type of sword fighting and sword play, but Bryant felt it was a lot more practical to also introduce some way that she could protect herself as well. Even though she is strong, a shield is a lot easier to use to block oncoming attacks than a sword. You know, you have a lot more surface area, and it is great for blocking and attacking. So Bryant really wanted to make sure she was a well-rounded warrior. And then I also mentioned before that back in the palace, Aina was learning magic. There is magic in this world. It's kind of an interesting system for magic that I'll introduce later when I actually can release the comic. But she was basically training in some of the basics of magic back in the day. But with that, like, Aina hasn't really been able to learn magic for many years, but just coincidentally, they were able to reconnect with her old instructor. So the nickname that he went by in the palace and amongst other wizards and sages within this world is the Silver Fox. I kind of want to keep his name on the down low because names are very important in my series. Most of them have some type of significant meaning or will allude to something in the future for them. So overall, I like to keep names kind of on the down low, except for a couple that I felt were very important, like obviously Aina, and then Bryant, I wanted to reveal his name as well, but you can just call him Silver Fox for now. Very talented sage, and basically restarted Aina's training from the basics, since it had been many years since she was able to do any type of spell training. So let's talk a little bit more about Aina and her personality. So Aina is a very loyal and kind person. She's the type that once you are on her side or in her group or like a friend of hers, she will do anything for you. You know, she will go into battle for you, so to say. And she also cares for her people a lot and will sacrifice anything to reestablish them and their culture. Along with that, Aina is a very persistent and stubborn girl. This can kind of help though. For example, like the thought of completely reestablishing her people, their culture, and her seceding back to the throne, you know, that's a huge daunting task. But between her stubbornness and persistence, like, I think that's what's really driving her to continue to try to reach that goal. And it basically gives her the spirit to like never give up on something, and it will help her push through any hardship that she's gone through. But you know, with the persistence and the stubbornness, she also has a very short temper and becomes very easily flustered, and that all coupled together can lead to a lot of trouble. She can get very aggressive with people, she can dig her heels in and stand her ground, and will basically die on a hill for what she thinks is right. So it can lead to either good results in terms of like if she feels something is right, she'll be able to like persuade the other person she's arguing with to see her ways, or the opposite where it gets her in a ton of trouble because she's just so stubborn. And also just probably very quick to badmouth someone in this type of situation. Another thing with Aina is to just not cross her. You know, if you get on her bad side or do something to wrong her, she will make sure you remember it for the rest of your life. It is very hard to break an Aina grudge. Once she has a grudge against you, it's game over. For example, obviously, with the hounds overtaking her people and killing her family, she just has an animosity to all hounds. Like, she hates them. And that's going to be a very hard grudge to break just because it's so deep rooted. But I mean, like, she's not going to hold a grudge for things like if you spill her, like, glass of wine or anything like that. She's not going to freak out about that. She might give you a hard time, but these are more specifically if you slight her seriously and do something wrong to her or someone that she's loyal to or loves. Oh, it's game over for you. Aina will never let you forget that or live it down. And then a final thing is Aina is very resourceful. You know, from the years of living on the brink of poverty in the middle of nowhere, she has developed a lot of street smarts and ways to survive. This also helps with basically if a hard task is presented to her, she will find a way to make it possible. She's very persistent, very street smart, but the flip side is, if you were to put her back in a political setting in any way, I think she would flop. She, like I said, she skipped out on those lessons. She doesn't know how to really communicate like a royal. She doesn't really know the economics of ruling a country or anything like that. So she would be a fish out of water if you put her with other royalty, because she has had no training with that. She doesn't really know much about being a politician, especially with how she grew up past being in the palace. And yeah, I think that's probably one of her weak points is she's very much street smart and can communicate with people, but she's not like networking political smart. I guess you could say. I don't know a better way to describe that. So that covers kind of Aina's personality and her origin story in a way, but let's talk about some other characters in this lineup. I really wanted to show off the companions in this story because I find them very crucial and important to the story. So let's introduce Edin. So Edin is Aina's musk elk, and he's been in the development of this story since way early on. I think the order that the characters were drawn was like Aina, Zara, which you guys are going to meet next week, and Edin. Like, he was very early on added to the story. He's gone through a lot of different names, though, a lot of different makeovers, because he was very heavily inspired by a character from one of my favorite movies. Like you guys know, I've shared a couple of things that I've been very inspired by over the years. You guys know I love Avatar: The Last Airbender in that universe, and I love the animal companions in that series. But specifically, this one is from Princess Mononoke. It's probably one of my favorite Ghibli movies of all time, and I kind of wanted to put something in this series as a nod towards that, just because I loved the movie, I love the characters, and for sure it's a heavy inspiration and influence for me. So I kind of wanted to put a little bit of like a nod to that. For those of you who have seen this movie, I'm referring specifically to Yakul, who is Ashitaka's red elk. I love Yakul, so much personality, and it's a very beautiful creature. So I wanted to kind of give my main character a similar creature. But I didn't want to just be like, all right, here, we're going to just slap Yakul in my story, which is how it was at the beginning. I basically had almost an identical red elk to Princess Mononoke, and I'm like, no, I gotta make it me. I gotta make it my story, like what I would want. And of course, you guys know I love doing monster mashes, so I was like, let's combine a couple of creatures that are similar and like to what I want and give the same effect, but have some more attributes to them to make it unique. So like I said, Edin is a musk elk. In the universe, it's kind of like a combination of musk deer, who I love. They're really awesome tusks and long teeth, and then like attributes of elks and deer and moose and mountain goats is kind of like where I took my inspiration overall for this species. The musk elk is the mount of choice for the Fox Nation. You'll be able to see them all over the lands, but they kind of vary depending on where you get them from. Each region in the Fox Nation has kind of their specialty stock of musk elks, and there's just been so much mixing and matching across the different like regions of the nation that you get a lot of interesting combos of the musk elks. So for example, sizing, there's so many different sizes of musk elks. There's more larger, beefier ones, kind of like a moose. And then you have the more slim and trim, like an elk or a deer. And then they are known for their speed. They're not crazy fast. Like if you were to compare it to like a gazelle in our world, they're not going to be crazy fast, but coupling their ability to run with their ability to go over difficult terrains can really help with basically their ability to evade enemies or any type of threat. They also range in color, so I'd say the most primary color combinations that you'll find for musk elks are like a brown, a beige, a spotted, a cream, and kind of like a dark blackish brown. Those are the primary colors you're going to find for musk elks. They range in the brown tones primarily, but there are also the red musk elks. Those are a little bit more rare. I'm not going to say that they're like super rare, but they were primarily found within the nation's capital. This was because you had a better chance of finding a red elk breeder where there was more money, because they would want to go and sell the more rare red elk to basically people who had money. So Aina received Edin when she was 13. It was a gift for her 13th birthday. Bryant had been working hard to try to find one to kind of give her a little bit of home again, just because her family also had red elks. And she really wanted one just to kind of have a remembrance of how things were and her family. She remembers times of them going out and riding through the forest as a family, all on their red elks, and she really wanted one for the longest time. So it took Bryant a long time to save up and to source any that he could find, but he was able to locate one to gift to Aina on her 13th birthday. So her and Edin have been inseparable since, and she just absolutely loves having him around. Edin got his namesake for a couple of things. One was from his coat, which mimicked the color of fire. And then the other reason was Aina used to say when she was younger that he would leave flame trails in his wake because of how fast he would run. So she named him Edin for that particular reason. And then I wanted to just talk a bit about this final drawing. With my OC-tober lineup, day 7 is kind of a wild card, so it's like dealer's choice, and I wanted to kind of show a little aspect of the universe in this last drawing. So like I said, Aina has lost a lot over the years and has had a lot of hardship. She lost her family, she lost kind of her way of life, and she lost her people. Now they're kind of under the reign of another nation and have to find a new way to live. They used to be a very prosperous nation. They had their specialties, their exports. They would have visitors from other nations come very often, but now that they're under a different rule and kind of basically at a standstill or almost like a war under the Hounds, their nation has changed a lot over the years. But one thing that Aina takes a lot of comfort in is these shrines that are a tradition in the Fox culture. What the Foxes do is, if they discover a tree trunk from a broken tree, they convert it to a shrine. These shrines have kind of taken on new meaning over the years and kind of have a different meaning to everyone. These shrines overall have taken on a couple of meanings for different people, and you might get a different answer depending on who you ask. A lot of the shrines are carved as kind of homage to the fox goddess, and she's really related to the earth and plants and things like that. But one of the meanings that you're going to get a lot from foxes within the nation that is probably the most accurate description for these, especially in these hard times, is that it shows that even with the loss of the tree and all the beauty that it had, with its branches and leaves and just overall magnificence, there is still something beautiful that can be carved out of what is left. So a lot of the Fox people identify with this sentiment, just because they had something amazing and beautiful, and they had their lands and their nation and their people. And even though the hounds have cut down that tree for them, they can see it as something beautiful can be still made from what is left of their nation. And Aina resonates with this a lot. Even though she lost her family, she lost her way of life, she's still living and can continue to make something beautiful out of her life with what she has left in it. All right, and there we have it. We are all done with week 1 of OC-tober, and I love how these turned out. It was so fun actually being able to sit down, explore Aina, do some more drawings of her, like more than just my random little sketches. It's just so cool, and I absolutely love it. And I hope you guys are also enjoying OC-tober. If you guys would like to help support me making this series or having like basically more time to do it, I would love your support over on Patreon. If I can make creating art my full-time job, then I'll have more than enough time to work on comics and YouTube videos and everything under the sun. So I'd really appreciate your support over on Patreon. You'll also get to see behind the scenes. Basically, whenever I do make something for this series, I post it on my Patreon as well. So you'll get a little bit of a behind the scenes production look as well. But anyway, thank you guys so much for stopping by and checking out this video. And if you aren't already, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button, join our little fun, nerdy community. And yeah, I cannot wait for next week's next OC-tober. This month is going to be really fun, and I'm so excited to tackle more of these. But either way, thank you guys again, and I will see you all next time. Bye, everybody. Just wanted to take a quick second to thank all my patrons over on Patreon. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for your support. And if you guys want to get some good goodies, I know I already said it, go check out my Patreon. But anyway, thank you guys for stopping by and checking out this video, and I will see you all next time. Bye, everybody.